Okay. All right. So it looks like we're live. This is going to be another episode of a show I like to call I Woke Up Way Too Early and Couldn't Get Back to Sleep, in which I wake up way too early and can't get back to sleep, so I might as well shoot a video. And this is going to be a big one. Like, I actually set up a table to do this with. I'm going to adjust this ever so slightly because it's a little bit crooked. All right, so what we've got today is something from Masters of the Universe Origins, very special for you guys today. And this is, if I can get it in such a way where we can see the name of it, it's such a big box. Point Dread and Talon Fighter. Such a big box it knocked over He-Man. You can see I got a bunch of figures over here to play around with. You can see Castle Grayskull looming in the foreground. I've got my special battle armor Skeletor. I gave him the little glowy green power sword that came with the Origins of Evil 2-pack. I got the special velvety cape that I made for him. This is my favorite Skeletor. My favorite Origins Skeletor, at least. Got He-Man. Got Origins He-Man. The one with the vintage head. This is my favorite Origins He-Man. Got Teela. This is the only Origins Teela. At least the only one I have. I customized her a little bit. You can see that I painted some shiny Inca gold on her. Made her look nice and special. I got some other characters hanging around. We got Stratos over here, the gross, fleshy Stratos that I gave him new feet with toes on him, and made him this collar. Found that on Cults 3D, printed that out a while ago. Oh, and there's the Spirit of Castle Grayskull. Also printed that out. I found that one for free on Thingiverse. And then we have Cringer, which, of course, this is like the little $1 tiger that I bought from Walmart and repainted him. Tried to get him to match the Origins Battle Cat as closely as possible while still trying to get him to look like the cartoon character. I think I did a good job painting his face. So I got some extra weapons around here. This is the weapons pack sword I like to give to Teela. Got a couple of different Havoc staffs. Got some Beastman figures that I pulled out for another upcoming project. If that's not a tease, I don't know what is. But for now, considering how I've got a mini comic style Stratos and He-Man and Skeletor both have Alcala heads, might as well use my own customized mini comic Beastman figure. I should probably give him some special feet too, shouldn't I? So he'll be our Beastman for this episode. And without further ado, let's go ahead and have a look at our Talon Fighter. All right, so we got some nice artwork on there. The artwork at the top, if I can get it in such a way where you can see it, has He-Man flying the Talon Fighter, and he's got Zodak as his co-pilot. So, of course, I got out Zodak because he's one of my favorite characters. I love Zodak. Underrated character Zodak is, as Yoda might say. So yeah, he'll be along for the adventure. Zodak actually has some history with the Talon Fighter because the original Talon Fighter came with a book and record set, and Zodak was actually the one who showed He-Man the Talon Fighter and Point Dread in that book and record set. And I believe that was the first time that Zodak had appeared in any of the mini comics media, which technically this was not a mini comic, it was a full-size book and record, but it definitely was supposed to take place within that early mini comics continuity. And I believe it was the only time we ever saw Zodak before the mini comics continuity switched over to a more Filmation-centric continuity. But yeah, Zodak appeared in that, so he has some connection with the Talon Fighter. I do feel like Zodak's role in that was closer to how he actually appeared when he finally did appear in the Filmation cartoons, where he was more of a solid good guy than the the shady neutral that we know him to be. Because what makes a man go neutral? Lust for gold? Power? Or was he simply born with a heart full of neutrality? So yeah, let me. I'm actually gonna grab my phone because I think that'll be a better way for us to get a closer look at some of the little Easter eggs on there. So yeah, Zodak and He-Man and the Talon Fighter, and you can see that's something different from the original Talon Fighter, right? With the laser cannon on the top. So we got two Rotons flying through the air in the background here, and one of them is piloted by Faker, and the other one is piloted by a green Triclop, or not Trapjaw. I don't know why I said Triclops. But yeah, Trapjaw is flying one of them, and that's the mini comic Trapjaw, which I know that they were planning on making that figure at some point, but I don't know if he ever even came out. I know he got delayed. And it says, Rugged Frontier Outpost, Talon Fighter for Winged Combat, Battle Station high atop the castle. So, and then you can see some of these pictures feature the Talon Fighter with the radar dish on the top, like the vintage toy, and some of them have this newfangled laser cannon. And if we look at the front of the box art, we see the Talon Fighter with the laser cannon. We see Zodak, top Point Dread, looking all mysterious. We have a very Alcala-like Skeletor skulking about down there. That's the Origins of Evil Skeletor, isn't it? With the yellow on the breastplate, looking very much like his Lords of Power version. Now, is that supposed to be the Origins of Evil Skeletor? Or are they teasing that they're going to do a Lords of Power Skeletor? That's the real question. But that's certainly the Lords of Power Merman down there with his infamous corn sword. And we see Man-at-Arms up here about to do battle with Merman. But he's also got his Lords of Power helmet. And then here's another Lords of Power character. This is Beastman, but he's in colors more matching the vintage figure than the one that was actually released in stores. So I got to kind of wonder if they're teasing the release of that Beastman. Now, I know a lot of these characters were in a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive set, but that was something not every fan was able to get a hold of. So maybe Mattel's teasing that they're going to re-release that. Who knows? And then up here, that was Triclops. He's flying a Roton down here. And that, of course, is the Mini Comics Triclops, which that was one they sold on their website, I think. And then we have over here a really cool picture with Teela riding Battle Cat up against Evelyn, who's riding Panther. So that's pretty cool. And then over here on this side, we have this mysterious guy riding on a griffin or pterodactyl or something like that, some kind of funky flying creature. And then on the back here, we have some cross-cell artwork for characters I have not seen yet. So hopefully they weren't characters that were released and I missed. This is a second King Randor, and I still haven't seen the first King Randor in stores. Slamurai, I'd like to have that guy, the heroic master of martial arts, to be the arch enemy of Ninjor. Dragon Blaster Skeletor, evil leader and his dreadful dragon. Oh, and King Randor, it says heroic ruler of Eternia, but we knew that already, didn't we? Snake Face, the most gruesome of the Snake Men warriors. He is a pretty ugly SOB, isn't he? Snake Teela, mind-controlled snake woman, and Snake Trooper, slithering cyborg of the Snake Men. So it's a Horde Trooper that is also a Snake Man. So you got to question where his loyalties lie. So up here, there we have Skeletor himself flying a Roton after the Talon Fighter. And look, there's creepy, fleshy Stratos, mini comic Stratos. And then there's the Talon Fighter itself with the radar dish. And on this picture, Teela is He-Man's co-pilot, which is how I usually configured the Talon Fighter when I was a kid. Hence why I made sure I had my Teela Origins figure handy. And then it says, with the mighty Talon Fighter perched atop its Eldritch Arch, the mysterious Point Dread traveled through time and space before the sorceress merged it onto Castle Grayskull. So yeah, much like the original toy, this is supposed to be able to clip the top onto the perch of Castle Grayskull. That's why I took Castle Grayskull down from its shelf where it was sitting in a place of honor, because we're going to play around with that. And then we have some of the features. These are new features of the new Point Dread, which is blast enemies with outpost cannon or swap for the radar dish to spy around the landscape. And then down here it says, empowering the next generation through play. You know, I saw the Barbie movie and I kind of liked how, you know, like that was kind of one of the ideas on that was, you know, they were very proud of the fact that it encouraged little girls to dream about being something more than just a housewife or whatever. And you know, that applies to boys too with He-Man. It's that kind of aspirational play. These are heroes that we look up to when we're growing up. Like girls look up to Barbie and boys look up to He-Man, and you know, girls look up to He-Man and boys look up to Barbie. Honestly, like you know, we all get something out of it when we're growing up. That's how we do. We play with the toys and we imagine ourselves as being the heroes. Sometimes even imagine ourselves as being the villains. So you know, it's with boys' toys, the good versus evil aspect was always really important. You know, you had the rebellion versus the Empire. You had G.I. Joe versus Cobra, the Autobots versus the Decepticons. You had the heroic warriors versus the evil warriors, He-Man versus Skeletor. This was all very important to us when we were growing up. And, you know, I'm hoping like maybe Mattel will take some of that Barbie movie and actually put it into making a really good He-Man movie. So we'll see if that happens. But I did enjoy that Barbie movie. I thought that was a really funny movie. So, all right. So let's go ahead and we will slice through the tape and we will get our Talon fighter open. So, I was pretty excited when the original Talon fighter came out when I was a kid. And one of the things that was really cool about this was I already mentioned the book and record set that the Talon fighter came with. And I don't expect there's going to be a book and record in this box. It certainly doesn't look big enough to really hold a record safely. I could be wrong about that. But but you know, that's kind of a lost media nowadays. Kids of today will never know the simple pleasure of a book and record set. They've got tablets now. They can watch actual cartoons anytime they want, play video games anytime they want. They don't have to settle for a book and record set like I had to when I was a kid. But that's something I've really enjoyed, though. And kids are never going to know it like the way that I knew it. So much like Roton, it appears that the Talon fighter is going to be a much glossier thing than the one that I remember from when I was a kid. And I noticed the handle is a separate piece. Something I forgot to mention. It does actually say on the box, it just simply says unassembled. That's all it says, unassembled. And that was kind of disappointing to me because I was like, guys, you ought to know better. Is that if this was an actual 80s toy, if you want the retro play, what it should say is some assembly required. And that does sound a lot more pleasant than unassembled, doesn't it? So this whole thing is wrapped in a bunch of paper. It's a very Hasbro-like move. Come to think of it, this is a plastic-free box. Other than the tape, there's no plastic on it. Pretty sneaky, Mattel, trying to horn in on that on that Hasbro plasticless packaging. But thankfully, the figures still appear to come in bubbles. So here is Point Dread itself. And that's how that will assemble. I'm not going to click it together fully yet because we're going to wind up taking it apart, putting it together anyway. But that's what that looks like. And I do want to real quick show you guys the computer console in there. Pretty cool. Black plastic with some decals. A lot of cool details to it. Like you got a fire axe over on this side. You got several different monitor screens and panels and buttons and dials, and gauges and circuitry. And I'll just let you guys have a look at that real quick. And this panel right here is really glossy. Most of it seems to be kind of matte, but that and some of the other circuitry is kind of glossy. Helps it stand out a little bit. Now, with this is an improvement over the original Point Dread, where all we had was like a little cardboard thing that was easily lost and or damaged. I think mine got lost before it had a chance to get damaged. And we do have an instruction booklet, nowhere near as huge as the instruction booklet that came with the Robert Pattinson Dodge Charger. But that will help us put together the Talon fighter. It says one-time assembly. Good, so I don't want to have to do this every single time. I want to play with this figure and with this vehicle with the figures. That's what I meant to say. So even though it says one-time assembly at the top here, you know, it does have the interchangeable, like I said, with the laser cannon and the radar dish. I like that as an extra feature added into it. Place figures in the Talon fighter, so you can have more than one figure ride in the Talon fighter. And again, they chose Zodak to be his co-pilot in this. Zodak is a figure that came out a while ago, so it's not like they're trying to push a new figure. I'm guessing that they did that mainly because, you know, Zodak was a character in the mini comic, and that's a nice little Easter egg for the fans in the book and record set, I should say. Excuse me. So yeah. Attach the bottom base, attach to the top of the castle. Display Talon fighter on a Masters of the Universe Origins hover stand, not included. Well, you're probably going to want to display this on your Point Dread anyway, regardless. But it is an option there. It shows with the stand, you know. So if you have the stand that came with you know, the Sky Sled, and who doesn't have a Sky Sled at this point? If you didn't get a Sky Sled when they were all being clearanced out for like $7, I don't know what to tell you. Or, you know, the Wind Raider, that would have had a flight stand, or, you know, some of the other vehicles. I wonder if it would work with the stand that came with Stridor. I wonder if that would work. So there's a laser cannon. Now, even though it shows He-Man firing the laser cannon from Point Dread, we'll go ahead and put that on there. It fits in there, but not too snugly. You can see, like, it's not really gripping, but you're just going to set this stationary and have the figure stand at it, right? So that's not really a big deal. Let's move the box out of the way, and we'll have a look at that play feature for a minute. So, since the box shows He-Man as doing that, we'll go ahead and put He-Man over here at the laser cannon. And like I say, there's not really a way for him to grip the laser cannon. There's no handles or anything like that. You just got to use your imagination and pretend like he's got some kind of trigger that he's pulling there to shoot at the bad guys. So, there went Beastman. So he just killed Red Beastman, and that's why later on we will have Orange Beastman, because he killed off the original Beastman. So now we have a second one. See how I just fixed that continuity error? Oh, that's fun. All right, so we've had a look at that. Let's have a look at the rest of our instructions. So the first thing it tells us to do is actually to assemble the Talon fighter. So why don't we go ahead and do that? More Talon fighter parts. So we've got 2 of these wings, one of which is a mirror of the other, obviously. And we've got two of these legs. That'll work as the landing gear. You can see they kind of stand just fine on their own. So hopefully they'll stand just fine when they're attached to the Talon fighter. Hopefully the whole thing will stand together. So, and then we've got the handle, which is a little small for my adult-sized hand, but probably perfect for little 8-year-old's little chubby digits. So, what was the age I was when I first got the original Talon fighter? I think I wasn't quite 8. I think I was like 7. My sisters weren't born yet. So, my sisters Sarah and Valerie, who are twins, were born in March. And my birthday is also in March. Their birthday is on March 9th, and mine is on March 26th. So I'm about 8 years older than them, give or take. Like, you know, about 8 years older than them. So that would have been Christmas the year that they were born, or the year before, technically, they were born. It would have been the last Christmas that I would have had as, like, you know, an only child. But my mother was pregnant with them at the time. So I was, I think we already knew it was going to be a girl, but we didn't know it was going to be 2 girls. So we might not even known it was going to be a girl, but it was a surprise that they were twins, I believe. So, but yeah, this was, if it wasn't my favorite toy that I got that Christmas, it was certainly one of my favorite toys. That would have been the second Christmas that I would have had He-Man and G.I. Joe toys, because those came out the year before. And that Christmas, you know, that was when I got He-Man, Battle Cat, Skeletor, and Castle Grayskull. So those were my first He-Man toys. And then with some of my Christmas money, I bought Ram Man, which almost instantly regretted. I should have bought another figure instead of Ram Man. Not that I minded having Ram Man in the long run, but he's not the guy you want to be like your third Masters of the Universe figure. The next one I got after that was Faker, and he was much better. So the canopy doesn't quite reach to plug in. And of course you can stretch it a little bit and then it plugs in just fine. But what I'm saying is it's not going to just naturally fall into place. You're going to have to place it into place. So if you press down slightly on the canopy, that'll close the canopy. And Mattel was smart enough to put a little divot in there where you can fit your finger, even an adult-sized finger, and kind of pop it open that way. And I noticed that it's got little hand grips on here, which is something that the original Talon fighter did not have. So you just kind of had to pretend that, you know, He-Man was controlling it, again, the same way. So we've got some other doodads over here, lots of sticker detail. So you've got like a fire extinguisher, a first aid kit, a fire axe. You got lots of wrenches, stuff that he can use to fix the ship if it breaks down. This is some kind of gun, but I'm thinking it's probably more of like a grapple gun than anything else. It does have 2 little cartridges and some pitons that look like they attach to it. Or it might even be some kind of tool to repair the Talon fighter, like a power drill or something like that. The great thing about this is, since they don't tell you what it is, it can be whatever you want it to be. So if you need it to be a grappling hook for whatever situation, it's a grappling hook. If you need it to be a drill for another situation, it's a drill. So fun stuff there. And you can see that there are indeed 2, I don't want to call them seats, because that's probably giving them a little too much credit, but seating areas. It almost looks more like the seat of a motorcycle than a plane. But, you know, it's the sort of thing with the Talon fighter where it's like you've only got so much room to to fit figures in here. You can only make these Masters of the Universe vehicles so big because, you know, you got to fit these big old figures in there. These ain't like little Star Wars or G.I. Joe 3 3/4 inch figures. These are big, chunky 5-inch figures, and they're about as wide as they are tall. So when you make a jet fighter and you want to fit 2 characters in it, yeah, it's going to be a little chunky. So let's go ahead and assemble our Talon fighter. And I'm going to start with the wings. Hopefully that should pop in there just fine. Hopefully. It does seem to be giving me a little bit of resistance. But looking at the instructions, the way they had it set up is that it doesn't really tell you any specific order to put it together in. So I don't guess it really matters. I can't imagine it would really matter because, you know, as long as you get them all in. All right, so there we go. I kind of didn't really want to force it, you know, because I didn't want to take a chance on breaking it. But there we go. And it says one-time assembly. These ain't coming out. You're not going to have to worry about them falling out. You'll probably have to worry about them breaking off before you worry about them falling out. Oh, take a look at the back there with the jet engines. That's all sticker detail. Looks very cool. Got lots of circuitry and gears and stuff like that. And, of course, the thrusters, which are lit up. I love having things like this as stickers because that very much adds to the vintage feel of it. That's how stuff would have been done when you were that age, back in those days. So there we can click the legs in, and they click in just fine. Again, those ain't coming out. Unless you want them to come out, you can maybe try to pry them out, but I wouldn't recommend it. It's supposed to click together, and you're just done with it. And then the handle goes in there. Can even the handle come out? Oh, it's in there. It's in there pretty solid. So there we go. I loved the handle on the original Talon fighter because that gave me a way to fly it around very easily. You know, a lot of times with these big planes, you'd have to kind of just do them like this, or, you know, however you could hold them, you know, from the bottom. But Talon fighter was definitely something that was designed to be played with like that. Now, that having been said, I do wish that this was a little more removable, because look at that. Look at that. It actually does stand on the ground on those legs. So you could perch it on the ground just on the legs, and that would be pretty cool. But unfortunately, the handle's just too long. So it's going to have to sit like that. So I kind of feel like that was a missed opportunity on Mattel's part to make this something that maybe removable, maybe it folds up and down, something like that. I think that would have added a little bit more play value to the toy, and it's too bad that they missed that opportunity. So, but hindsight's always 20/20. If anybody from Mattel is watching this, I don't mean to armchair quarterback your work. I'm enjoying this toy very much so far. So don't think that that I'm trying to be overly critical. I'm not. So far, I think you did a really good job with this. So there it is with the radar dish on top. That is the complete Talon fighter. And the complete Talon fighter as I remember it from when I was a kid. But, of course, we've got more, because we got one more part that we can attach. And that is the new laser cannon, which is, of course, a new addition to the Talon fighter. And I think that looks pretty cool with the laser cannon. Gives you a little bit of extra artillery if He-Man needs it. If he's going up against something where he's got like a lot of trouble, like say this jerk is riding around on Spydor, which I really hope they make a Spydor. I think that would be really sweet. But yeah, if he needs a little extra firepower, yeah, load up the laser cannon on there, and we can go ahead and blast him away. But of course, He-Man can't fly the Talon fighter unless he gets inside the Talon fighter, can you? So let's go ahead and put our heroes inside the Talon fighter. Now, I have I have Zodak over here. He's ready if I need him. But like I said, when I was a kid, the co-pilot that I always used for the Talon fighter was Tila. So we're going to use Tila. And I want He-Man to grip onto the the grips, because they're there. And of course, right now I've got He-Man with one open hand, vintage style, so he can more easily hold his shield. And the leg articulation doesn't quite want to it doesn't quite want to cooperate to the point where like his butt will fit in the seat. It's just kind of barely hovering above the seat. So that's unfortunate. But you know, what are you gonna do? I'm gonna hold that back a little bit so I don't want to fall down. Again, I've got it kind of balanced on the edge there. Really wish they had made those removable. I think that would have if the handle was removable, that would have been a nice little feature. But oh well. Again, I'm not trying to armchair quarterback. I should probably be a little more. Okay, so there's not a whole lot of room here to fit a second figure in there. They're going to have to sit uncomfortably close to each other. Just probably part of the reason that like I like to use Teela in this in the first place is since she's somewhat smaller than the male figures, then the quarters weren't quite as cramped. But we're gonna stick Zodak in the back here and see how that looks. So don't worry about that. I'm secure enough in my masculinity to put two male figures in Talon fight. All right, so got Teela to grip on that. Her butt fits in this back seat a little bit better than He-Man's butt fits in the front seat. So we'll go ahead and close that up. But you see what I'm talking about. There's not a whole lot of room for these two to ride together. You can fit both figures in there comfortably, but you can see how like it's going to be a little more cramped when I put a dude in there with He-Man. So there they are. And another improvement that this Talon fighter made over the original one, actual windows. So they've got clear glass in there for the to work as a windshield. And there's He-Man flying the Talon fighter. Pretty cool. So so yeah. Also, I should point out is that the clear plastic at the top has like some detail worked into it, like some circuitry in there. So when I had the Talon fighter and I was basing it off of my play patterns were more based off of the mini comics, and the mini comics were supposed to be kind of like this post-apocalyptic world where they had like ancient technology that they were rediscovering, basically. So a lot of the stuff was like mysterious stuff that ancient elders had built and left behind, and He-Man and his compatriots were kind of rediscovering technology. So yeah, the Talon fighter was definitely supposed to be kind of like this mysterious artifact of an unknown technologically advanced time that was destroyed by these great wars. And He-Man was kind of a barbarian character who, like, the goddess slash sorceress, whatever you want to call the green chick. Her. I just got mini comics characters all over the place because I knew we were going to be talking about mini comics. She was the one who gave He-Man his armor and axe and shield and the battle ram vehicle. So yeah, she would have known something about that. That's a character that's gotten it kind of expanded on a lot in modern lore. Originally, she was just a sorceress, and I don't think her name was the sorceress. It just described her in the book as being a sorceress. And in the mini comics that DC made, the character was referred to as the goddess. So the green goddess, as she was often known later, the classics figure was called the Green Goddess. Her role got kind of expanded on, and to me, she's like, I kind of think of her as being like the main deity of Eternia, and of the good guys at least. So yeah, that's my idea about her. Got a little sidetracked talking about Masters of the Universe lore, but I've got to imagine if you're watching this video at this point, you come here because I get sidetracked, because I do that a lot, don't I? One more thing I want to do before we move on and play around with Point Dread a little bit more is it does say that you can put the radar dish on here and have characters scan, Eternia. And of course, on the package, it shows Zodak is doing that. So there's Zodak monitoring, probably making sure that the balance of the universe is kept, and there's not too much shift on the side of evil or good. This guy wants to make sure everything is perfectly balanced. Like I very much like that idea of Zodak. That was how I always played with him when I was a kid. The only thing that I read with Zodak in there that I felt like really got it right was the DC comics, the full size DC comics, the little preview story that came out in DC Comics that month. I had it in an issue of Batman, and the issue of Batman I had a really cool cover with Batman tied to like a giant stone Joker head on a mountain, and the Joker was about to blow it up with TNT. And that's not exactly what happened in the story. In the story, what happened was the Joker wanted to dynamite the mountain so that it would look like his face. But how are you not going to put a big stone Joker face on your comic book cover and have Batman tied to it? So, of course, they took a little bit of liberty as far as, establishing what happened in that story. But we're not here to talk about Batman right now. If you want to see me talk about Batman, watch any video where I talk about Batman action figures. So that's enough Batman. Again, I kind of figure if you're coming to this channel, you want to hear me talk about Batman at least a little bit. So I'm not going to feel too bad about that. But the He-Man story that was a sneak preview kind of thing, and also featured Superman. And this story was drawn by Kurt Swan. And the main Batman story was drawn by Jose Luis Garcia Lopez. And the backup Batman and Robin team-up story was drawn by Don Newton. So here you had a comic book that had Batman, Robin, Superman, He-Man, Zodak, who was, actually kind of the main adversary of that story, Skeletor, who was the actual villain of that story. And you had artwork by 3 masters of the comic book arts. And I was a kid and I just ate that up. So that was pretty darn cool for me. But the He-Man story had Zodak in it, and he was trying to prevent He-Man from going into battle with Skeletor because there was like some kind of prophecy or something that said that He-Man would fall in battle. So in actuality, Stratos was trying to, or Stratos, you're distracting me with your nakedness. Just disturbing. but yeah, Zodak was actually trying to protect He-Man in that story, but He-Man doesn't need protection. He's He-Man. So yeah. But I like the idea of Zodak just being a guy that, like, not necessarily like in the Filmation cartoon. I guess like moral ambiguity was something that was a little too complicated for the Filmation cartoon. So they just pretty much decided he was a straight up good guy. And I did like Zodak on the cartoon. And a lot of my favorite episodes of the cartoon are because Zodak is in the episode. But I still really like that kind of, morally ambiguous, what makes a man go neutral kind of character. And that's what fascinates me about him. But since Zodak is featured on the box art, I want to go ahead and put Zodak in the Talon Fighter, and we'll have some fun with that. So let's go ahead and pop that open, and Tila will remove her. Her hands did grip those grips pretty well. No jokes. So we're going to take the gun out of Zodak's hand. So I want to have him grip the handlebars. That's probably a better thing than say that they can grip the grips. It just sounds odd. And I accidentally popped Zodak in half while I was trying to get him to sit down. Again, these Origins legs only move up so far. It's just because of how chunky the figures are. And that's, of course, by design. They're supposed to be huge. And he's got the Skeletor hands, so he's got kind of the claw hands. And so we got to slide him up under here. So yeah, again, because these figures are so large, you know, there's only so much room for them in here. So basically his shins are right underneath He-Man's butt and thighs. We'll see if we can get a good angle on that where you can see what I'm talking about. So these two are sitting awfully close together. Like I said, not quite as much room as you had with Tila. But they both fit. I can close the canopy, so that's good. So there we go. We've got these two warriors heading into battle, and probably there's like some animosity there between them because He-Man doesn't trust a guy who's neutral. So, but they're united in a single cause at this point because they're going into battle together. So there we have He-Man and Zodak. All right, so this is supposed to clip on here, and it's got the little peg on the bottom where like it can fit into the same hole that the laser cannon and the radar dish would fit into. And I just got to line everything up properly. That might be easier said than done. All right, so there we go. There's all kinds of little clips and pegs and whatnot. We got to get them all to fit together. So bear with me just a moment. That might be as good as it gets. Nope, there we go. All right. So there we go. And one piece that I haven't added yet is the perch. And this does seem to be more intended to be removed than some of the other parts, but it fits in there nice and snugly. I remember that in one of the mini comics that featured Point Dread, and Skeletor stole it. And like I mentioned in the Roton video, Skeletor stole the Talon fighter a couple of times in the comics. Probably because like it's got its connections with Castle Grayskull. So of course he always wanted to break into Castle Grayskull and try to tilt this up so we can see the whole thing put together. There we go. Let's go ahead and do that, actually. That's a good idea. So we're going to take He-Man and Zodak out. And it stays on the perch pretty well, even with the canopy tilted back. Like I said, I didn't want to have the canopy tilted back too much when it was just kind of bouncing on the edge of the table here. But now that we have it clipped onto Point Dread, it seems to be staying on there just fine. So yeah, let's go ahead and put Skeletor into the Talon fighter. And play out some of those mini comic scenarios. Now, of course, it would not have been Battle Armor Skeletor because he wouldn't come out until the next year. But like I said, Battle Armor Skeletor is my favorite, so forgive me a slight bit of artistic license. And since I killed off Beastman, he's dead, and he hasn't hired the new Orange Beastman yet, we'll use Merman, because I have Merman handy, and I like Merman. So why not put him in there? Oh boy, I get to ride in the Talon fighter. Don't make me regret this, you fool! Alright, so there we go. And he's got all these little spangles hanging off of his belt, but they don't really get in the way of having him sit down, not any more than any other loincloth type of thing would. I'm going to slide him up underneath Skeletor. I'd better not feel anything poking into my back, you boob! Christ, it already smells like fish in here. All right. So there we go. There's a Skeletor and Merman in the Talon Fighter. Why did you pick this guy to ride with me? Why can't you pull out evil Lyn? Yeah, so. But anyway, the point I was getting to was in one of those mini comics, when Skeletor stole the Talon Fighter, he actually grabbed like the entirety of Point Dread and was flying it around with it stuck underneath the Talon Fighter. And you couldn't really do that with the older one because it was just meant to perch on top of it. It didn't really grip it like this. So this is something that the kids can reenact from the old mini comics that I was not able to with my Talon Fighter when I was a child. But the kids probably haven't even read the old mini comics, honestly. So I don't know if they would really appreciate that. Hopefully Dad has that hardcover collection of all the mini comics that Dark Horse put out a few years ago, because that's a great book, and hopefully they would have had a chance to read it. So yeah. So pretty cool toy. It's got, the little steps going up the side, just like the old Point Dread had, which of course are steps that are like way too small for any figure this size to use. They're way too small for probably even Mask size figures to use, let alone He-Man figures, let alone 3 3/4 inch figures that would have been standard at the time. So it does make you wonder who would have built Point Dread that would have used such tiny steps. It's just more of the mysteries of the world of Eternia, isn't it? So, but of course that's not all, because of course Point Dread is supposed to attach to the top of Castle Grayskull, and we can see that in the that's something I forgot to point that out when we were looking at the packaging, is that it does have Point Dread perched atop Castle Grayskull on that. And I did point out that it says that we can do that with the toy itself over here. So let's go ahead and do that. And just for ease, I'm going to go ahead and take the Talon Fighter off. And remember how I was saying that was removable? It was actually easier for me to get the perch off of Point Dread than it was for me to get the perch off of the Talon Fighter. So that's something you're going to want to be aware of when you're playing with this. Maybe if you just want to set it up there for a little bit, maybe we can just kind of gently rest it on there and not put it on there all the way, so he can take off again a little more easily when he needs to. But that having been said, if you want to display it, I would suggest putting it on there as solidly as possible, so that way you don't take a chance on him falling. So for now, we're going to set the Talon Fighter over here, kind of close enough to the camera where we can't see it. And we're going to move Castle Grayskull center frame. All right, so I'd already had it opened up. So I was looking to see if maybe I had the laser cannon inside, because I don't know what happened to the laser cannon from my Castle Grayskull. It seems to have gotten lost when I moved. That's unfortunate. I don't know how easy it's going to be for me to replace that. Let's try to move this back here a little bit, because we definitely want to have access to we definitely want to be able to see the top of the castle while we're filming this, right? Whoops. So what happened was when I pulled the top off, the bottom slipped out of my hand. That sounds dirty. Anyway, so we can clip, supposedly, we can clip Point Dread to the top here. And it does clip in the front, but it stays a little loose on the sides. It doesn't have anything on the sides. It might be nice if they had added some extra tabs to kind of hold it on over there. Now you see that it all stayed together pretty solid when I had the top piece on the base, but Here it just wants to clip in the front. That's all it does, really, is just kind of clip in the front. So let's take our Talon fighter and perch it up top. So there we go. And you can see how massive this is. I tried to leave plenty of room at the top of the frame so that we could see it all together, but it all looks pretty huge when you get it all put together like that, huh? It's a pretty massive thing. So if you're going to display it like this, make sure you got plenty of ceiling room. Like if you've got your Castle Grayskull on a shelf with another shelf over it that's like this tall, forget about it. That ain't happening. So yeah, Skeletor has managed to steal the Talon fighter once again, and he's used its dimension warping capabilities to place it on top of Castle Grayskull, and now he and Merman have entry into the castle. Oh, no! What's going to happen? So here he is, and you can see this jerk has already switched the flag over to evil. Evil rules Castle Grayskull. Yes, Castle Grayskull is ours. No, Fin-Face, you fool! It is mine! So, of course, the goddess, she sees what's happening from afar, and she summons He-Man to come and take back the castle. So there we go. So we can see how the adventure might go from here. Maybe Stratos, or maybe Zodak shows up. Let's stop doing that. Maybe Zodak shows up and realizes that the forces of good and evil are out of whack, and he's got to put things back into balance, and that means actually helping He-Man to defeat Skeletor and Merman. Maybe Teela shows up to lend a hand also. And this is the mini comics version of He-Man and Teela. So in my personal continuity, that means that this is actually the Ular character, as they called him in the Origins, or the Classics storyline. And this Teela is actually Teela Na, who would later become the sorceress Castle Grayskull. But there currently is no sorceress, at least not that they know of. So if you're familiar with her origin from the Filmation cartoon, we know there actually is a sorceress in here, but she's kind of laying low at this point in my own personal continuity. So He-Man and Teela are just going to have to gain access to the castle in some other way, since He-Man only has half of the Power Sword, and Skeletor likewise only has half of the Power Sword. Yeah, I'm using the full Power Swords, but I still like to pretend they're the half swords. I like the full swords better than the half swords. What can I say? So we can have like a dramatic duel between He-Man and Skeletor. Maybe he actually climbs up the side of Castle Grayskull, and it's like, I'm really sick of you pulling this kind of stuff, Skeletor. They have a big battle. Merman joins in. Teela takes care of him pretty easily. It was his mistake to bring, a corn cob to a sword fight. So she takes him out pretty easily. So. And then the sorceress shows up, or the goddess, or whatever you want to call her, and, banishes Skeletor, and once they're defeated, banishes Skeletor and Merman back to Snake Mountain. Fun fact, in the original Bible for the Filmation Masters of the Universe cartoon, Skeletor's headquarters was actually called Point Dread. And that was originally going to be the name of where, I'm guessing somebody at Mattel probably said, Point Dread isn't really like a bad guy headquarters, call it something else. And they wound up creating Snake Mountain because of that. That would be my guess as to what happened. I don't know for certain. But anyway, it does look really cool perched on the castle. Now, much like with the original toy, you know, when you look at it with adult eyes, it does look like it's a little large to be perched atop the castle like that. But when you're a kid, you don't really care about that kind of stuff so much. So I loved having the Talon fighter perched atop of Castle Skull when I was a kid. That was something I always enjoyed doing. But we'll go ahead and take it back off for now. I'm going to move the perch. I'm going to take this off and put it back together. So with its dimension warping capabilities, Point Dread has now warped back to the top of the mountain. Well, there, I got the handle off now, didn't I? Oh, boy. So you can take the handle off if you really want to, or if you completely accidentally do. So we'll just set him down for now. And somewhere the radar dish flew. There it is. And then I've just got to figure out what I did with Point Dread, because that just kind of went all over the place. So be careful about that. Where did Point Dread go? It's a mystery. It warped off somewhere to parts unknown. It's got to be around here somewhere. How do you lose a big green thing like that? It doesn't seem very likely, does it? But I honestly don't know where it could have gone. Where could it have gone? Oh, there it is. Way back under my end. I can't even make it here. There we go. I got it. Okay. So I'm going to put the perch back on there. And that did clamp together pretty well. So now it's back together. We can have Zodak sinking around down here. It's nice that I called him Zodak, isn't it? Doing God knows what. Who knows what kind of neutral things he's up to. Now, it doesn't seem like it's quite high enough for a character to fit in there. They probably should have made this a little taller. Because now that I've got the whole thing put together, he can't quite fit in there. So, that's unfortunate. But also unfortunate is that right now my classics Talon fighter is in storage. I would have liked to have done comparison time, as Pixel Dan says. So, would have been nice to see how they look next to each other. Although the obviously the classics version is much larger than this. So, and unfortunately, I wasn't able to really get a classics version of Castle Grayskull, and God knows that thing is expensive now. So, but at least I can put together this one with the Origins Castle Grayskull, and that's pretty cool. So, I think it should be pretty obvious, without me saying it at this point, that I definitely recommend Point Dread and the Talon Fighter to anybody who's been collecting this line so far. Oh yeah, since He-Man won, we can turn the flag back to good. Hooray! Evil has been vanquished. Good is triumphant. Love conquers all. But yeah, I definitely highly recommend this. The Talon Fighter was always one of my favorite vehicles in the vintage Masters of the Universe line, and this one's got some interesting features that improve upon the original. So this is an even better toy than the one I remember from when I was a kid. Also, I should point out, this is probably done for safety reasons, is originally the Talon Fighter was all one solid kind of piece of plastic. But this one, they've got kind of this softer, rubbery plastic here. Again, I'm guessing for safety reasons. It's not that soft or rubbery, though, but it's definitely softer and rubberier than the rest of it. The extra laser cannon, that's a cool feature. So you can swap that out. Now, of course, much like with the original Talon fighter, it's got laser cannons on either side of the cockpit over here, and laser cannons, or at least I like to pretend they're laser cannons. It might just be like part of the jet engine up here. So it's not like he doesn't have artillery on it already, but you can add extra artillery to it when you do that. And of course, when I was a kid and I would clamp the top of Point Dread to Castle Grayskull, that made this lower part kind of, what do you do with that? But the extra features, the swappable laser cannon and radar dish, it adds a little bit of playability to that. So now we can use that as a little battle station for characters to sit at. So that's kind of cool. Now, that having been said, I'm a little disappointed that the characters don't really fit inside of Point Dread once you have it all assembled. So that definitely cuts back on its use as a playset. You want to actually fit your figures inside the playset. And I think if they'd added just maybe another inch of height to this thing, then we could have had a little more playability to it. Also, it would be nice, and this is just a little nitpick thing, more armchair quarterbacking. It would have been nice if we had like figure pegs. So that since the new Origins figures actually have peg holes in their feet, it would be nice to have figure pegs to stand the figures at. But as it is, it's still a pretty neat little playset, and I definitely recommend it. And yeah, I'm very happy with it. So it's pretty remarkable to me that in a line that certain people are always constantly saying is on the edge of being canceled, certain people that I'm a fan of, actually, I follow that channel, Spectre Creative. I enjoy his videos, but I definitely disagree with his kind of pessimistic view of the success of this line. Like we got a pretty massive playset for the modern day with this Castle Grayskull. We've got another smaller playset with a vehicle. Like they've made pretty much most of the vehicles that I really liked in Masters of the Universe for this line so far. And that's an impressive feat. There's not a whole lot of toy lines these days that go all in with the vehicles and the play sets like Masters of the Universe Origins has. And I think that's great because a lot of the appeal of this line had to do with the vehicles and the play sets. I've mentioned before that the thing I was really intrigued about with Masters of the Universe from the beginning was Castle Grayskull itself. The first commercial I ever saw with He-Man, what introduced me to this character and this world and everything like this, was actually a commercial for Castle Grayskull, which featured He-Man fighting Beast-Man for control of Castle Grayskull. Skeletor wasn't even in that commercial. I didn't even know about Skeletor till I got the toy on Christmas morning, and I thought Skeletor is just really freaking cool. I liked him better than I would have liked Beast-Man anyway. But yeah, it was the castle that captured my imagination, and things like how you turn the throne and the trapdoor open, Beast-Man falling down the hole, and one of the things I really like about those early Masters of the Universe commercials is how Dad was involved in it, and he'd come by, and that was a good way, I think, to not just introduce parents to the concept, but introduce the kids as well, because we didn't know who these characters were yet. So if Dad comes in and asks his son, "Hey, what's this?" and the kid's like, "It's Castle Grayskull, Dad." and then they play out the scenario with He-Man and Beast-Man, and they tell Dad to turn the throne So Dad gets to be involved in the fun and everything. Now, I have no doubt that Dad knew what Castle Grayskull was, and he probably bought it for the kids. But maybe they got it Christmas morning. Maybe Santa brought it to them, and so he's playing dumb. Dad is so. but but yeah, those commercials were pretty brilliant and really got kids interested in these toys. And like I said, it was the castle that was the thing that was the most appealing to me in that. So the fact that they actually made one for Origins, like I was really happy that was something that they put the effort into doing that. I was happy to have a Sky Sled. I was happy to have a Wind Raider. I was happy to have the Land Shark. I was happy to have Roton. But the Talon Fighter is something that's pretty special to me because, like, of a lot of the nostalgic attachment that I had to that toy in the first place, and how I got that Christmas morning. That was my second He-Man Christmas. Right now, I'm sorry about the earthquake. This table isn't that stable, but I'm gonna go ahead and put this back together. And I want to use the table since I don't want it to go flying across the room again. So yeah, the Talon Fighter represents something a little special to me. If it's not my favorite of the old Masters Universe vehicles, and that would be the Battle Ram, it's definitely a close second. Why don't we just go ahead and let's do it this way. I'm shaking the table around too much. I mean, it's just a little card table. I just set it up so I would have room to do this with. But we can clamp all that back together and do that. So, and you can see how just with me going over the newer toy and discussing all the play features that come with that, how this is something that would really get a kid's imagination going. And I would imagine if even like a kid today, with all the technology and stuff that they have, and kids don't really play with toys the way that we used to when we were that age, but they'll still play with them. And I gotta imagine something like this would still get a kid's imagination going today, just like it did with me when I was that age. So yeah, definitely something pretty cool. Like I don't know if they've gotten any more since then, but I do remember that the Christmas that they came out, I got my nephews He-Man and Skeletor, and they had a lot of fun with them on Christmas Day. Like I said, I don't know if they would have gotten any more of them since then, but they definitely had fun with them that day. So yeah, if you're a parent and you're collecting these with your kids, this is definitely something you're going to want to pick up, especially if you have Castle Grayskull, because it just adds so much to Castle Grayskull to have Point Dread to go on top of it, and it adds so much to Point Dread itself to interact with Castle Grayskull. It's pretty brilliant how they were able to add a lot of play value to the main play set by introducing this new mini play set and how all of that fit together. So yeah, highly recommend Point Dread and the Talon Fighter, even if it didn't come with a book and record set. But guess what? If you really get nostalgic for that book and record set, the book is in the hardcover He-Man mini comic collection that I was talking about before, and you can actually find the record. And a lot of the times with they'll have the mini comics on there, like screenshots of the mini comics, so you can follow along with the book and record on that. So you can find that on YouTube. So isn't technology wonderful? It doesn't really need to come with the book and record set, since you can just find that on YouTube. And I know you have YouTube because you're watching this right now on YouTube. So why don't you go ahead and do some of the fun YouTube things, like liking and subscribing the video down below, and you can get more content like this if you actually want more content like this. And after you do that, just do a quick search on YouTube for the He-Man Point Dread book and record set, and that should probably get you pointed in the right direction, and you can get a little taste of what I had that Christmas morning that gave me some play patterns on how to play with this thing, which is a fun little toy. So man, I've been talking for like an hour and 10 minutes now, and I'm kind of hungry, so I think I'm gonna make me some hot wings. So we will talk to you next time. Bye.